Okay, we're going to talk about the parts of the machine, and you're going to fill in this quiz. The first one is right here, the bobbin. This is what a bobbin looks like. You'll actually load this full of thread. This is about 50 cents. We want it back at the end. You can borrow one. The next one right here is the bobbin case. This is a lot more than 50 cents. This one is about $45. This is the inside where the bobbin will fit, and then it fits into the sewing machine like this. At the end of every day, it should be right up here on top of your bobber winder spindle. Alright, number 3 is the bobbin winder spindle. So this little apparatus right here, when it's time to load new thread on this bobbin, you'll stick it on here and it will spin around. The tension button is right here. Basically, it's 2 metal discs that are sandwiched together, and you're going to wind thread around there to reach the bobbin winder spindle. You only use this to wind the bobbin. You don't use it to thread the machine. This is number 4. Number 5 is the feed dog, and the feed dog, I'm going to take off this presser foot so you can see it better, but the feed dog live right here. And as you sew, they move, and it will move the fabric through. There's a button on the side of your machine that's right by this black cord, and if you push that button all the way in, it drops the feed dog. That means that this won't move anymore. Sometimes students think that's the on button, and they press it, and then nothing will feed through their machine. So leave that button out. You don't need to touch that or monkey with that when you're sewing. Alright, number 6 is the thread tension control, and that's right here. That's this little gray wheel. You always want it set so the red line is matching up with the dot. That will give you the right amount of tension for the things we're going to sew in this class. Number 7 is the hand wheel. It's right over here. It's blue. It always turns towards you. If I turn it, the needle will go all the way down and then all the way back up, and we'll use that when we pivot. The number 8 is the power switch, and the power switch is all the way over here. Turns down for off, up for on. So just a little switch. Okay, the next one we're going to talk about is the needle. This is the needle for the sewing machine. These are about $1 a piece, so you want to make sure you don't break it. It comes in the machine, gets tightened into place, and this is what your thread will eventually go through when you thread the machine. Number 10 is the presser foot. This is the guy I took off. There's actually several different presser feet, whoops, that goes on to your machine. But for this class, we're just going to use this presser foot right here, and it's locked into place. It will go up and down, but that's with the presser foot lever, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, the next one is number 11, and that's the reverse button. It's this big blue button. If I push this, the sewing machine goes backwards. If I let it out, the sewing machine will sew forwards. You want to do this at the beginning and the end when you're stitching, and it will keep your threads nice and tight so your sewing won't come undone. Alright, number 12 is around here to the back of the sewing machine. This is called the presser foot lever. It will lift up your presser foot and it will let it fall back down. Generally speaking, you want it up when you're putting anything into your machine, and then down when you're about to sew. Okay, number 13 is the spool pin. This is located right up here. It also flips down. If yours has ever flipped down, you can flip it up, and that's what your thread goes on when you're getting ready to thread up your machine. Number 14 is this little white button that has the number sign by it. This is your stitch pattern selector. These all select different stitches right here, 1 through 9. If I want any of these down here, I have to hit the stitch pattern selector first and then type it in. So that would be stitch 11. That would be stitch 17. For our class, we don't do 18, 19, or 20 because they tend to jam up the machines. Okay, 15 is the stitch width control. If I'm sewing with a 1, this width control is right here. It's either going to make my stitch go like a zigzag or it's going to go straight. You can pretty much leave these buttons alone because if we want it straight, we're going to hit 1. If we want it zigzag, we'll hit 2 and it will automatically go to a program. Number 16 is the take-up lever. Okay, this is the guy that confuses everybody. He's right here behind this plate. So if you come in here, as I do this, wind this hand wheel, you can see that there's like this apparatus with a little hole in it that goes down and disappears and then comes back up. In order to thread your machine, the thread has to go through that little hole, or that little eye we call it, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But that is the take-up lever. It takes up the thread and then it feeds it back into the fabric, and if you do not have the thread in there, it will not work. Alright, the last one, number 17, is the thread cutter. It's this little tiny piece of plastic right here. Inside of that plastic is actually a kind of like a little razor blade. So if you have thread and you're pulling it out of your machine, you can just push it through that little opening and it will just cut it. That razor blade will cut it. Okay, you should be good.